Hey guys, so my journey channeling extraterrestrials. So I thought I'd make this video because I kind of feel like there's some new guys like watching my videos. Like on Facebook I get quite a few people like old school friends like hitting likes and like commenting on my channelings, which is kind of new because like 10 years ago everyone like from my old circle like thought I was nuts. So I'm assuming like a lot of people like are becoming more interested in this kind of stuff. So I thought I'd share my journey of how I started channeling extraterrestrials and like whether I believe it's real, what I believe is occurring and stuff like that. So how did it start? I guess in like 2007, 2008 I became like interested in conspiracy theories. I was reading a lot of dark stuff on the internet and eventually I came across like UFOs, and I became really interested in the UFO phenomenon, which of course we all now know is real because it's all over the mainstream media. CIA have basically admitted it's real. Like Congress is desperately trying to get the Pentagon to admit the truth. And so pretty much I think most people are aware we're being visited by extraterrestrials now, or aware there's possibly something to it. So times have changed a lot, and I feel like people are becoming more interested in this. I also feel like a lot of like regular people have gone through a lot of challenge over the last few years, which has forced them to look deeper into their reality, deeper into life, and really see if maybe there is something to this spirituality thing. Maybe there is something to this channeling. Maybe everything we taught at school wasn't the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Woo. Whole truth and nothing but the truth. So it really started around 2007, 2008. I was into conspiracies and I moved into like ufology, something a bit more interesting, a bit more positive. And I came across the teachings of Dr. Stephen Greer and his Disclosure Project, where he gets all the military witnesses back in 2001, just prior to 9/11, come forward and like tell out all their stories about their experiences with UFOs and ETs in the military. And Dr. Greer was doing something at the time, which he still does, called the CE5 ET contact meditation, which you can do your own research on. I made a few videos about it, but basically it's a meditation where you go into a deep state of consciousness, connect with our natural state of oneness with the universe, and from here we send out telepathic communications to any extraterrestrials that might be listening in, might be interested in what's happening on Earth, might be interested in assisting us in this transformation at this time, because we are going through a huge spiritual awakening, as many of you are probably noticing now. And so I started doing these meditations. Cut a long story short, after about doing them for about 4 or 5 weeks, something like this, I had a spate of 3 UFO sightings over my parents' house back in the UK. One where there was this golden ball of light flying over the house, and I said to it, if you're a UFO, move up and down. And the second I did this, it went zoom and shot up like 200 foot in the air, and then went along and disappeared, went back down, moved along, went back up again, disappeared, and went off into the distance, doing some very bizarre stuff on my request, apparently telepathically. So as you can imagine, my reality is starting to change at this point. I'm starting to be like, whoa, what is going on in this reality? Still kind of on my own, because like no one I knew at the time was interested in this stuff. Like I shared a bit of it, but even when I mentioned the word UFOs and ETs, people like freaking out, like don't want to know about that. You're cuckoo. And so yeah, so I carried on with this, and so I had about 3 UFO sightings. Then in 2009, as a result of following my excitement solid for about 3 or 4 days, I suddenly hopped on the ferry to Amsterdam and went over to Holland for the weekend, celebrating my birthday. And I was just like following my excitement, like wherever it took me, for like 3 or 4 days. Came back to Lincolnshire, to the UK where I was living at the time with my parents. Was planning on going back to work Monday morning. I had my own gardening business at the time, and but then I thought, no, I'm just going to follow my excitement one more time. And I went to a place called Chambers Farm Woods, which is a really powerful place. I've got 2 friends who also had spiritual awakenings here, and basically I went into the woods, had a big spiritual awakening experience where I went into a state of like bliss, euphoria. Like I felt like at the time like I'd become my soul on Earth. I was this big kind of amped up energetic being. I felt like I could had access to all information in creation, like I was directly tapped into the universe, but only the information that was relevant for me at the time, kind of what I understood. And I think I probably had contact with extraterrestrials that I don't remember. Bizarre story. But as a lot of you are deep into this, there's these phenomena called missing time, and I recently had the experience again in 2018 where I do remember parts of it. I do remember being on an ET ship, which I remembered afterwards. But at the time, like there was I had like this missing time thing, and when I came back to consciousness in the forest, there were military jets everywhere buzzing around me, swarming around me. Like, obviously there because of me, and like my consciousness was totally altered, and that's a kind of whole nother story. But so I've had some of these ET contact experiences, and the first one I had in 2009 that I don't remember, I feel like something happened, and there was a kind of a missing time thing where something happened, but this time my frequency just went super high. Like I say, I went into a state of like euphoria, bliss, like probably the most amazing I've ever felt in my life, even to this day. And yeah, a few days after this experience, I went back to the forest, because I went back to the forest like almost every day after that, trying to rekindle this experience, as you can imagine, because I'd been like suffering from depression and anxiety and health issues up to that point, and then all of a sudden I got into this bliss and ecstasy, and like completely blew my mind. So as you can imagine, I wanted to get back to that state as much as possible. So I started going back to the forest every day. And even though I was kind of somehow I knew ETs were real, I knew that aliens were real after that, because I kind of had some telepathic communication with them at that time as well. And so I knew they were real, which created a little bit of fear in me, well, quite a lot of fear in me about going into the forest and being on my own, because I didn't want to get abducted by these greys, sorry. and so I had this experience, this big like awakening that completely transformed my life. And a few days later I went back to the forest and had a telepathic communication from extraterrestrials. It was very clear. I could kind of sense that they were in a ship kind of up in the sky, not too high up. I didn't see anything, but they communicated to me very vividly, and the first thing they said was just kind of good morning, kind of like that. It came through like that. It was very kind of like resonating in my heart, within me. It was like a very vivid telepathic communication. It was like clear as day. It's actually, I say it was clearer than day. It seemed more real, more vivid, more alive than really anything I'd experienced before, except the experience a few days earlier, but that was so intense that I couldn't really integrate it. But this was a bit more integratable. I was a bit more grounded and centered and aware of what was going on. And so yeah, they said good morning, and I went a bit further into the forest, and we had a bit of a chat. We shared a few words, and it was almost like I was speaking involuntarily from my heart. Like what I shared with them came up involuntarily out of my subconscious, and it was kind of like insecurities I had about myself, a lot of private stuff, and they were like, oh, we don't hold that against you. That's how it came through. It sounded a bit like Stephen Hawking when he had, like, you know, his electronic speaking machine. It came through a little bit like that for some reason. And but extremely high frequency, and that again activated, like, because I was communicating with them telepathically, heart to heart. It's like we merge frequency with them, we merge consciousness with them, and we experience reality much more like they experience it, which was like the most intense joy I'd ever experienced in my life, like except for the few days before and this big experience. But that, like I say, I hadn't really integrated in that. I didn't know what was going on. But like apart from that, like, you know, like I said, I've been depressed, anxious for quite some time. I had a lot of mental issues. I was doing a lot of drugs, drinking, a lot of crazy stuff, and I just went into this intense joy. Like there was so much joy and happiness, like another level of joy. Like, I remember feeling there was no emotion, even though it was joy. It was not emotion. It was beyond emotion. It was just the joy of the consciousness of the fabric of creation, like the fabric of the universe and our natural state of consciousness. You maybe hear a spiritual teacher say that is like this ecstatic bliss joy state, which isn't an emotion as I experience it. And so I experienced this. I spoke to them, and I remember I cried a lot. It was tears of intense joy, just to know that it was actually possible to experience such joy, because I didn't even know if it was possible. I've been following some spiritual teachings. You hear people say you can experience this joy through spiritual practice and this, but I didn't believe it, you know, until you've experienced it. You doubt it, do you? Like I was, yeah, whatever. Like, but I just went from like depression and anxiety, like just over these few days, to experiencing the most intense joy, and I just cried my eyes out to know it was possible to experience so much joy, not just myself, but it opened a whole new reality to me. It's like, whoa, if it's just possible to experience this much joy, I can experience in the future, my family can experience in the future, humanity can experience in the future. Woohoo, we're saved. It wasn't quite like that. It didn't it's a long process of actually being able to integrate and experience this joy regularly and consistently in your own life. That's a whole nother story. But yeah, so that's kind of how it started. And in the days after that, I remember driving along the roads and like being able to telepathically feel the emotions of people in the cars driving towards me. I could like feel their stress and their anger. Like a lot of people are stressed when they're driving, aren't they? And a lot of humans are just stressed all the time anyway. And I could feel it from like 20 meters away. It was insane. And so I experimented with channeling a little bit after that. I did some written channelings for some people on the internet, a website called starseeds.net, and played around with that for a few years and really had a break from it. I think I found it a bit intense, a bit overwhelming. And then around 2006, 2007, 2008, I started putting it, I don't know when it was, so you can look at what date my YouTube, if you look at the About section of my YouTube channel, you can see when it started. About 8 years ago, just over 8 years ago, 2015, the end of 2015 I think, I started putting channelings out on YouTube, and that's the story. And and my life changed from there. A few years later, a couple of years later, I got picked up by Vice Media, the big social media video company, and I made a video that had several million views. It went kind of viral, semi-viral, over a few days, and so I became quite well known worldwide, internet famous, as my friend was saying the other day. And so yes, so how do I know it's real? Well, like I say, I had this big contact just prior to, actually, like around 2017. I kind of started putting out the message to the ETs, kind of like holding the intent, like saying to them, hey guys, like if you want me to continue with this, I'm really happy to like continue sharing this message with humanity. You know, I really believe like this has the potential to transform the world, perhaps more than anything. And so I really wanted to get this message out. I understood the potential for the transformation of reality, that this message that we're not alone in the universe, that ETs are visiting us, and the only reason they don't come more and like show themselves is because like our governments don't want them to for some reason, and they're scared of this big change, I think. And so the ETs are waiting for the governments to admit it's real. In the meantime, we're like doing everything we can to put pressure on the governments to like finally admit what they know is real about the Roswell crash and all these incidents, the Rendlesham Forest incidents, the Phoenix lights. This goes on and on and on and on and on. And they're finally starting to admit it, drip feed it. They're obviously really nervous about like admitting that they've been lying about this for years. So they're very cunningly and cautiously like drip feeding us like bits of information, like videos saying we think this is real and like blah. So the government's finally starting to admit it, but they weren't for so long. And so where was I? Oh yeah, like to explain it, I've had like experiences, like I've been on an ET ship. It's kind of like what they call I think Bashar, the channel, sometimes calls a phase shift experience. Like consciousness changes, but I know it was real because I had like this missing time, and then I was in a different place in the forest. And like obviously the military picked up on radar, because there's lots of military bases back in the UK where I come from. And there was fighter jets like circling me for like an hour, like in the forest afterwards. It was completely insane. I made a lot of videos about this. If you look at my Facebook videos from September the 11th, 2018, that's when it occurred. And so yeah, so like I see the ships a lot. It's kind of frustrating in some ways, because like everyone like wants to see ships, everyone wants to know they're real, and they just come to me all the time. I think it's because the more I started to speak about it publicly, the more they started to come and like confirm they liked what I was doing. But yeah, the point I was touching on, like just prior to 2018, I put the message out to them that yeah, I want to help you guys. I want to get this message out. I believe it's really important for humanity. I'm happy to move forward, but can you just give me some more concrete information? Can you just give me some more like evidence? I'd really like some really solid sightings, so I just know 100% that you're real, so I can move forward with what I believe is a big part of my life purpose and my life mission, to share the message of extraterrestrial contact with humanity. And yeah, it was sometime around then things started to change. Like, I had this big experience in 2018. I started to see more and more ships. Like about 10 days after I had the contact experience in 2018, I did a Facebook live stream where they showed up. If you look at my Facebook videos from, it was on the equinox of 2018, I believe it was the 23rd, like 12 days later of September 2018, they appeared during a Facebook live stream and flashed us several times. And from my perspective, it's undeniable that there's something going on there, because it's clearly operating like no terrestrial object operates the way it's flashing on the camera. There's no really explanation to it, as much as some skeptical people I know have tried to come up with reasons. It just, their reasons don't make sense. It's a very obviously like something bizarre going on during the Facebook live. So I had that, I had the contact experience, and really from there, like the sightings started to ramp up. The next year I started to see them regularly. Like I around that time I moved out into like a caravan, like in nature, like I really needed to be like away from people, because I just get so sensitive to the energies, and like it's just a lot easier for me if I'm just away from people. Although I've been forced to spend some time in Lima here, like, and face this stuff. Like, my higher self, like, he's kind of like, you got to learn to deal with humans. I'm learning. And so I became very sensitive to the energies, and so I moved out into nature. And at that point, like, I was living on this caravan site in a place called, like, down on Dunstan Fen, like away from most people. And I started seeing a lot of ship sightings, some real amazing sightings. They started coming regularly, particularly after I did an interview for the Niall Boylan show. He's a big Irish, I think if you come from Ireland, you've probably heard of Niall Boylan. It's a big Irish radio show. I did an interview with him, and after that they came regularly, and they just started coming very regularly. And so I got the confirmation that I was asking the ETs to, like, give me deeper like 100% proof really that they exist, so I can continue with the journey. So I have my proof that the extraterrestrials are real. So I know like 100% the extraterrestrials are real. I've met them, even though it's kind of another dimension. I know it's in physical reality, kind of, because of all the, like, the fighter jets and the missing time in the forest and stuff. So I know 100% like the ETs are real. I know in my communication with them. Do I know my channeling is always 100% accurate and exactly what they're communicating to me? No, I don't know that. And I'm sure from time to time my mind comes in. In fact, I'm sure it does. I went through a bit of a channeling crisis a bit ago, where my mind seemed to be coming in, and there was a bit of information coming through that didn't seem to sync up. But after that, I went through like a big kind of letting go and surrender, and like recently my channeling seems to have got a lot clearer and a lot better the more I let go and the more I just surrender to the information that comes through. I believe it's kind of leveled up and got a lot more clearer, a lot more accurate, and a lot more true to the transmissions the ETs are bringing through. And so what's occurring when we channel is we're actually syncing up our heart consciousness with their consciousness, our higher chakras with their higher chakras, ultimately all our chakras, I think. It's very much centered around the higher chakras. And I connect like energetic with them and match their vibration to the best of my ability. And from there, what actually occurs is we actually have the same thoughts. We see reality from the same perspective, because everything in creation is vibration, and every perspective and every bit of knowledge in creation is actually a vibrational resonance. So when I match the vibrational state of the extraterrestrials I'm channeling, I'm becoming the same frequency as them, and from that place I'm tapped into the same knowledge and the same wisdom and the same perspective of creation as they are. And so this is how I'm able to channel and bring through messages when people ask me. It's not that they're taking over me, it's that we're matching frequencies and becoming of the same resonance, and from here I have the same perspectives and we have the same thoughts at the same times. So this is what's occurring in the channeling state, and hopefully that makes a bit more sense to some of you about what I've been doing all these years and how I know it's real. And also I know it has the ability to radically transform people's lives. Do you know what I mean? Like I was just kind of like before all this started, I was I was in a crappy office job working for Lincoln Council doing accounts. Got depressed as like almost anyway. What a good place to be. And like just by operating on this action, I still go through a lot of challenges. Like life doesn't become easy, it becomes far from it, and if anything it becomes more challenging. But do you know what I mean? It's like Tuesday morning, like I'm out here in Lima, in the middle of Peru. However, I ended up here through following these teachings and following my excitement about creating our own reality. And you know, ultimately I'm radically happier. I know that like I'm infinite consciousness. I know that I can't die. This is perhaps like some of the greatest things, you know, like even though it's intensely challenging going through this path, you know, we come to the realization that we're one with all of creation. We're infinite, eternal, immortal souls. When this body drops, it's no huge deal. In fact, it's a huge relief. I know it will be, guys. Being contracted in this body is one of the most challenging things in the entire universe. Being in this like insane planets where everyone's like stressed out, lost in their minds and crazy and like arguing and fighting and thinking the answer to reality is more money or a better car or a prettier girlfriend, and like this is like the most insane place on earth, guys. But the good news is it's temporary. It's no big deal. At some point we're going to drop this body, our consciousness is going to go poof, expand into infinity. We're going to reconnect with our soul, be back in the bliss of our soul, and enter into the new phase of our journey. And life is eternal, life is ever going, life just continues. And you say, how do I know this? You know, just because you're getting messages, it's a lot more than that. You experience this directly through this path. You have like openings, you have awakenings, they call it, and you directly experience it. It's like you say, how do you know you're infinite and eternal and immortal and connected to source consciousness, and like your true nature is bliss, love, light, awareness? How do you know this? You can't know this for sure. And I like to say, okay, so when you taste honey, how do you know it tastes sweet? Like you just know, don't you? You taste it. You taste the sweetness. You taste the nectar. You know honey tastes sweet once you've tasted it, because it's your direct experience. And this is what happens as you go through the spiritual path. So yes, so this information has the ability to radically transform your lives. Will it solve all your problems overnight? No. Will it make you instantly happy? No. It's a journey, it's a transformation, it's a process, and it's a very difficult and challenging process to rewire our brains to like stay positive, stay centered, stay joyful in the midst of the chaos of an insane city, which is beautiful and insane at the same time here in Lima. And so if you step onto this path of spiritual awakening and following your calling and what you believe your life purpose is, which is your excitement and passion, it will be the most challenging thing you ever do. There will be extreme highs, there will be extreme lows, but ultimately your life is going to become much more exciting, much more interesting, much more fulfilling, much more just amazing. But also like the challenges kind of accelerate, because we kind of come to earth, and like once we realize this, it's like the soul consciousness within it, the higher consciousness within it wants to help humanity evolve. And that doesn't involve just like generally just like retreating to a nice house in the woods and spending your rest of your life in bliss. It becomes a lot more challenging, a lot more intense. Our higher self wants us to assist humanity, and the more we open in our heart, the more we can't just stand back and can't just hide in the caravan in nature and like avoid reality. It just becomes too painful to see our fellow humans suffering, and all we want to do is help, and this love like drives us. But reality becomes very different. So if you want to learn to channel for yourself, I have a learn to channel course starting in June, starting Saturday, June the 3rd, I believe, something like this. And so if you want to learn to channel for yourself, if you feel like this is part of your journey, part of your excitement, part of your mission of expansion, of spiritual awakening and service to humanity, you are very welcome, if you feel drawn to this, to join my Learn to Channel course. That starts in less than a month now, about 3.5 weeks, something like that. And so check out the link in the box below. It'd be great to have you guys sign up for the Learn to Channel course and meet some of you guys. And so check out the link, and it will have all the information that will teach you to learn to channel, or about learning to channel in the course. So check out the link, guys, and I shall see you all in another now. Peace, love, light, Shabbat.